Welcome, everybody, to Season 2, Episode 6 of the Ladies' #1 Detective Agency, Clearing the Paranormal. I am your host, Aimée Clarke, and joining me today is Janet Graham, my co-host, and unfortunately, Bill had to leave, so he won't be in this episode today. Today is July 19th, 2025, and we are doing part 2 of the amazing story about the 2016 Pentyrch UFO event and cover-up. So today we have Caz Clarke. Great last name, by the way, Caz. And I just have to say, you are the Royal Clarke. That's how we understood it. Like the people with Clarke with an E were the Royal Clarks, and us other Clarks were just the commoners. So. Caz is one of the key witnesses to the Pentyrch event, and Gari is a UFO researcher. So we are going to, for all of the detailed information about Gari and Caz, you can go to part 1. And we're going to pick up where we left off. And I think we're going to be talking about the EMF readings and some other research that Gari did. Is that correct, Caz?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. All right. I will pull up the slide deck here. And for people that are just listening rather than watching the video, we'll do as much as we can to remember that you're listening and not watching. So let's start this. If this will work, here we go. So we have already looked at the evidence of the fallen trees and the crash site area. I'm now on the slide with a letter that you wrote to the king. Is that correct, Caz?
Gari wrote the letter.
Yes. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, we just had this idea that, Caz had the idea to, take it to every office or authority that we could. You can't get any higher authority than the king. So we're led to believe, but he definitely has a say in all this, and we decided to write him that letter you see there. That's the outline of it. Just asking, can you please bring about the process of disclosure? It's about time that we did that, because America is having their hearings on it. Other countries pretty much disclose a lot of the UFO stuff anyway. Why aren't we? I mean, we are one of the main countries that have UFO sightings. And if you want to go to the next slide, I know that the reply is there. It wasn't much, but what's interesting about it is he just says, "The king would have me thank you for the letter. His Majesty is most grateful for you to taking the trouble to write to him, as you did, but I'm afraid he's unable to help in the way that you ask." Well, that's kind of interesting, because recently there's been in the news that they want to start this process. So is he pulling the strings here, or is someone else telling them to do it now because it's getting too big to bury or keep quiet anymore? So, yeah, so it took him a long time to send that reply, or whoever his clerk is or whatever, his secretary.
Well, I noticed that there's no title on here of who this person who sent this to you.
No, it's just a signature, and that's it, really. That's it.
Oh. And when did you send your letter in?
Oh, probably beginning of the year, actually. I mean, it's dated there the 23rd of August, 2024, but I didn't receive a reply for 6 or 7 months.
Wow. Okay.
So
yeah. Everybody's skirting around disclosure.
Yeah. Well, me and Caz did a petition for disclosure as well, but I don't want to, I'm not going to name names, but the UFO community didn't exactly get behind it.
Do you know what I mean? I hear that. Yes.
It started off nicely, and I was posting it everywhere, and we were posting it on all the groups and everything. And it's like, you say you want disclosure, but why aren't you pushing it then? I mean,
they don't
want out there who are big voices, and they're ignoring our case. They're ignoring this push for disclosure. I mean, this. As a researcher, right, someone who's been doing this now for researching anyway, 25 years, investigations, 12, I've done a number of them now. There's no other case right now that could smash the barrier through disclosure than this one. Okay, there's just nothing that comes close to it. And I'm sorry to, but I'm not just saying that because it's our case. I'm saying that because it's the damn truth.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me, besides maybe Rendlesham Forest or Roswell, that has military chasing and shooting down UFOs, covering up the area, monitoring the area beforehand, an eyewitness who passed through polygraph tests, and all this other evidence, radiation and strange weather anomalies and stuff. I find it laughable when people say it's fake. We just made it up.
We even had the Russians show up before.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were there before because they must have known too.
There's so much evidence on this case. Yeah. Looks like people can deny it.
Well, and it wasn't just you, Caz, that saw that experience. You had people, your neighbors, right there with you, and you had a whole community. Like, how big is Pentyrch?
Huge.
There aren't that many houses here. I think there are only around 900. Mm-hmm. So, but this happened on the edge of the village and not over the village, shall we say?
Yeah.
But there are still other witnesses in the village. So it wasn't just David and I that saw it here. There are other witnesses that live in the adjacent houses that saw it. They've come forward anonymously, and I have to respect that because of their professions. Mm-hmm. That if it was to be disclosed who these people are, that there is a very strong likelihood that they would be unemployed very quickly.
Mm.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's so sad, right?
I have to respect that. I've asked all witnesses, and I have a lot of witnesses, Gary and I both do. And I've respected their confidence and kept their confidence for nearly a decade. I would never disclose a witness ID to anyone, regardless as to who they were.
No, but it's sad that they are put into a situation where they feel they can't even come forward and speak their truth, right?
Indeed.
So
I'm trying to instill the confidence in people to come forward, even if it's anonymously, to Gary and me, because I know there are witnesses out there that have video of what happened that night. And they're in disbelief because they don't believe in UFOs.
Right.
But yet they film them. They saw.
I know. It's like, I don't
shown the video.
But I have a weird thing on my phone.
They've shown the video to their work colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
Please, I ask them, please send it to us.
Yeah. We really need now people to start not speaking up out publicly, but it would be nice now. I'd like to think we've got through the whole laughing stage, joking phase, the angry phase, and now we're in the disclosure truth. Everyone's going to know about it phase. So maybe now people will be more comfortable with that sharing of info that they've got. So.
Well, it seems to me that you both have a lot of integrity, and you've tried to create a safe place and space for them to come forward. You're not taking their information and then spreading it all over social media or something like that. So, and I think people have to, be comfortable with being able to share that information. So, and here we have, go ahead.
Years. There was one lady, and she's still not come forward, but she did make a comment that what she thought she was looking at was a balloon in a tree, a large balloon. And she saw this thing from her bedroom window in the top of a tree. And it wasn't until it moved and when the helicopters came that she realized that it wasn't a balloon. And when she heard me describe it, she cried. That's how deeply and profoundly people have been affected by what happened that night. And it's not how fleeting someone's sighting is on that night. It's the fact that they saw it that's important.
Right.
And this is why, even if it's just like one of the men from Bridgend, again, who only saw the cluster, and he made this comment on the morning of the 26th. He said he saw a cluster of lights being pursued by military jets and helicopters. I made contact with the witness, and I said those lights were not white. So what color were they? And he told me green.
Wow.
So I remember seeing them. And he said it happened all so quickly. And it doesn't matter how fleeting
You
The
still
fact
saw
that
it.
I saw them.
Actually, Amy, do you have a picture there with circles and yellow pin dots on it? It should show you locations of witnesses. Where
Yes, I think
That's the EMF.
that's the
I'll
email.
talk about it. No, yeah, I just wanted to show you something because, I mean, we in Wales have something called a NOTAM, which is a notice to airmen.
That's
Oh,
what it
yes,
is.
that's in one of the other slide
Yeah.
decks.
Well,
Do you want to
if we can, well, I'm sure you can edit it in later if you need to.
check?
It just shows a yellow circle and a red circle, and that really is the area where they're supposed to be training, or where they say it's supposed to, happen, and yet they're pushing their planes and helicopters well outside that and going further west to the west of Wales. And what's really interesting about it, that's illegal. Right there, that is illegal right there. The question is, why would you push yourself outside of your own NOTAM when you're telling us this is where you're training? But then I also say to people, why is the NOTAM evidence important? Because we've written to the Civil Aviation Authority, we've written to the military aviation, we've written to the National Air Transportation Systems, and God knows how many other agencies that have information on NOTAMs, right? And they all say the same thing. No one has any information. Those are the radar returns of some of the planes. But we've asked and asked and asked about this, and no one has got any information about this so-called exercise Chameleon, only one of their largest exercises in the world, in Britain, that they do. And nobody's got any information about a NOTAM being put in place so that other planes can stay away from the area, so that supposedly, allegedly, military can train. But I mean, I was just hoping that that slide would show up. But those are the radar returns if we want to go that quickly, because yeah, ZZ418 is the Shadow R1 aircraft. Jackal 02 or ZG996 was the Army Air Corps. He was doing figure eights and sort of zigzag lines, while the other one was doing circles. And it's amazing as you see the patterns of their radar returns, they shift from Pentyrch Field to Smailog Woods as the time Caz and Dave said they saw that green object flying over to the northwest direction of them. As a matter of fact, I think where you see that little red dot on the bottom right there, that's where Smailog Woods is right now. I mean, you can't see. Yeah, but there's a little bulge, a hill right in the center of that area. You can maybe, right there. That's
That is the crash site area.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and look how small the circles keep getting.
Yeah.
So the reconnaissance and surveillance aircraft, the ZZ418 Snake 48, that have been circling here with its partner plane for 3 days, as soon as that object, the pyramid, turned up, and they started pursuing the green object to Llantrisant, that plane then flew to Llantrisant and just coincidentally happens to be circling the crash site area in Smailog Woods.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you want to?
I did see that slide for the that other area, but I think it might be in another slide deck. So
You want to bring up the EMF? I'll talk about that. I really want people to understand this because I feel that there's a bit of evidence here that's being not so much overlooked by people, but maybe not understood. I mean, this is what really got me into it. This is what really put me on the path of really getting into this.
okay, just give me 1 second here while I get this up. It's slow in responding here.
Here we are.
Is this the first one that you want?
Yeah. I'll just.
You could just describe for people who might just be listening what we're looking at here.
Okay, what you're looking at there is a Google Earth image of the Pentyrch Fields area where the craft had been seen. Now, we've got them labeled as first field, second field, and third field. Now, the first field you'll see to the bottom right. It's like an orange line and two blue little dots there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's where the barrels were. And you may have seen the images that the artist's rendition was. That's roughly their location. And what's interesting is when we started scanning, we were picking up hits with EMF meters right in those two areas. And just to sort of like add a bit more to it, you see a hedge bush running along that field there. The leaves in that area where we picked up the signal were dying off every time they sprouted in the spring. That,
Wow.
that area wouldn't grow any vegetation on it or leaves or anything, plants, for a long, long time. And then one day it just decided to do so because the signals, the energy left. And the tree that Caz saw the green one in, I don't know if you, well, maybe I haven't got the image here, but one side of it, you can see the trees are the leaves are dying off quicker on that side than the left side. Meaning that the EMF, that energy that thing was putting out, has weakened those leaves. The chlorophyll chemical that makes leaves and trees and grass green obviously had been diminished quite a lot by a microwave effect of sorts. Now, I want to draw your attention to the color codings for those who can see this. You may see like color code of red and yellow and lilac, purpley color there.
Mm-hmm.
Once you see, when it comes to UFO research and you look at other cases have shown that whenever these craft that have a anti-gravity propulsion system of sorts that allow it to move, if they get close to the ground in farmland, countryside, countryside, farmland, mountain woodlands, that sort of thing, if they get close or they land, the energy that they give off gets absorbed into the area, the soil, the grass, the plants, it all gets absorbed. They take in some of it, and it can last there for months. In this case, it lasted 5 years. And what's amazing about it is that when we started to scan, because I thought, well, okay, it's been nearly 20 months since this thing happened. Maybe we won't find anything, but it's worth getting some radiation detectors and having a look. So we decided that we would just have a scout about first, and then we get a bit more serious and do like a sort of, what do you call a search pattern, like an up and down, left and right sort of thing like that. Yeah, grid reference search is another word for it. And what we found when we got into that second field, because all the other fields that don't have names on them, but I scanned that entire area like 5 or 6 times, and it's no small feat. It's like a 250,000 square feet or square meters type of thing. It's not small. So once we got into those second and third fields, we were just getting magnetic radiation readings. Now, if anyone doesn't understand what EMF is, I mean, if you want a more technical solution or understanding, go Google it. But essentially, it breaks down into 3 things. You know, it's an electrical field and a magnetic field, which oscillates in a wave of sorts, right? And it has a frequency. Now, if you know anything about the EMF spectrum, you get your radio waves, television, your microwave, and then you go up to gamma and X-ray and things like that. So the more waves they have, the more intense the energy is. And what we were getting, you see, 0.4 or 0.7. That's in a micro Tesla. Now, you can shift the decimal point over a bit and call it milligauss, right? So maybe this is what people in America or Canada work with. So 0.47 would be 4.7. 0.5 would be 5.5. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Following? Yeah. This is milligauss.
They have to put the safety slide over so they can show that.
Yes, I was just going to say that, yeah. The safety range for anyone to stand in, or what is recommended, is no higher than 2, but definitely no higher than 4. And we were getting readings that were going up as high as 20. So it's, wow. And there's nothing there to affect the ground. There's no underground cables or overhead cables. There is in the first field, but it's well away from anything that can affect it, right? And there's no cars coming past with radio signals or digital radio. There's no one on mobile phones, because I went around there with no other cameras or other people, just me on a few occasions as well. So I'd have a good baseline reading of what should be normal for this area. The electrical field didn't register. The magnetic field did. And I'm like, why is that? Because normally when you get a charged particle, right, that's electric of sorts. And as it moves forward, it generates an electric and a magnetic field, right? But I'm only getting magnetic field readings here. So where's the energy for it coming from? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you see that yellow line and it leads into the white area, that's where the ball patch is. Or was the ball patch. Yeah. We found a signal that followed that trail. And amazingly, that's the same path that Caz and Dave told me before I even did any of these tests.
Wow.
It's the same,
So it
virtually
just
the same path.
supports. Mhm.
That's how it moved. As the craft was turning, anti-clockwise, I believe, yeah, one of its leading edges was probably creating that sort of, that's why it's got that curve to it. It's turning and its lowest point is reaching the floor near enough. And as Caz said in her statement, it's landing, you know, and then it had to reach out with those like hand of lightning to stop itself or right itself. And that's where the ball patch is. And that's where we had the highest concentration of readings for a long, long time.
So in the picture here on the third field where the white dots are, is that where you saw the fingers of that plasma coming through? How
Yes.
interesting.
And it actually went off the scale on the EMF detector. So we don't know how high it was, just that it was higher than the EMF detector could go.
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy. Well, there you go. Proof that something was there that shouldn't have been there. It just supports everything.
Yeah, I mean, the same principle was done for Smilog Woods too. I scanned all the surrounding areas, went through it a number of times. Yeah, that gives you just an idea of its size.
Okay, hang on here. I'm just going to move this out of the way. So what are we looking at here? This is map distance 3, map distance.
Yeah, that long line there you see, the 963 feet. We were trying to work out size. Now, I remember Caz and Dave both telling me it's not like the craft was moving and they were following it with their heads, you know, their eyes like that. They were literally staring at it. It was in that field. It didn't move, but it was much, but it was turning, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. Yeah. So it tells me that there was roughly a good length of how long it was. And I did some trigonometry on this, you know, just some simple maths with a tangent formula, I believe. And I get roughly the same thing, about 1,000 feet every time.
Wow. That's crazy. That's huge.
I know. Twice the size of the Pyramid of Giza.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was totally impossible to be mistaken. This thing was like a giant building leaning in from somewhere else. And I don't know if it went back the way it came, but certainly that bright green object drew the military aircraft away from the load that it jettisoned and the main craft itself. You know, it was enormous, just majestic.
So here's Smilog. Is that how you pronounce?
Yes. I really want to point something out. You see, okay, you see a yellow line, you see the white ones again, and you see the blue and purplish dots as well. The blue lines are just bike trails or paths you can walk, okay? That just tells you where they're at. That yellow line there is kind of like the debris trail that Caz followed, but guess what? The EMF detector was going off on that too. Follow the line right into the crash site. I expected to find something in the white dot area because, you know, that's where the thing came down, snapped all them trees. But what's interesting, you heard the recording of the two people who got nabbed by the army and had their phones wiped and everything. That path you see where it turns around, and that's actually the path they came down.
This one right here?
No. The way the purple bit is.
Over here.
If you go up there, there's a path right there. And I kept thinking to myself, why am I picking up readings here? I couldn't get all the readings down, but these are just some of the ones that I picked up because there were just too many to log. But what's interesting, I kept saying to myself, why would it be there? That doesn't make any sense. But then I figured to myself, well, hang on now. If you wanted to land a helicopter there or put a helicopter hovering over the area, where the road turns around there, just I don't know if you could get the mouse. Yeah, right there. Where it turns around there, there's a big wide open area of land. You know, it's quite large. You could land a helicopter on if you were...
in this area right here?
No. Where the purple dot starts to turn or the white road turns at the point there. Yeah, a bit up there, right there.
Right here.
You could get trucks up there to load stuff on, or you could get a helicopter to fly over and airlift something out. I mean, it definitely would explain that they've obviously taken the object from the white dotted area and rolled down that road. And so, I mean, it's clearly whatever this object was had an energy source inside of it so powerful that it left a signal for us to find for for the next 2 or 3 years after the event in Smilog Woods. And it's like, how do you explain that? You got Pentyrch Fields, Smilog Woods. They're 5 miles apart. They're the only 2 areas where the military decided to take an interest in. And they're the only 2 areas where we're finding all this evidence. So you put 2 and 2 together on that, people, and tell me what you come up with.
Well, the witness in Smilog Woods said that there was debris on the ground. So if the military were picking up parts of the ship they shot down, it would just make sense that they stacked it along the roadside to be carried out by the Chinook helicopters, which is what happened now.
Yeah, Dave.
So there were two objects shot down, or one?
Sorry, I lost you then.
Oh, 2 objects or one?
There was the green object that was shot down and crashed into Smilog Woods.
Right.
And there were 2 further barrels that were shot out in the Llantrisant area, let's put it that way.
So 3 altogether?
Yes.
At least yeah. But this is the most very well documented, because we've got videos and photographs. Right. Snow. I mean, if you went to Smilog today, if the trees are still there, they're still there. They've still got the white burn marks on the top. You can see them. They're still there.
Wow. So this is your
yes, this is what someone did on the website, actually, but thank you very much for doing that, because it saved me a job. But I mean, you can see it there, average 0.52 UT. That's microtesla. Now, if you, like I say, move the decimal point over, the average magnetic field reading strength was 5.2. But I mean, if you were there weeks prior to that, because it took us a little while to get all this outfield testing done. You can't just do it right away. You've got to do it a number of times and get baseline readings. And the baseline reading normally should be about 1 or half a milligas, right? In this case, it's like 10 to 20 times that. It's 5, the average here is 5, even though the safety limit is about 2 to 4. But like I said, when we were scanning the ball patch area, I mean, this is going about 20 months after the event. I mean, it was going as high as 20.
Oh.
What was it when it happened? And I would like to point out, right, do you have another slide there that shows the safety limits or something?
Yes, there is one.
There you go. I say, I mean, lots of other people who have done research or investigated UFO sightings will say that the energy these things seem to use is something capable or palpable to a microwave effect, a microwave strength. So, I mean, up to 4 inches near a microwave, you're talking 100 to 500. That's reading milligas there, yeah. But if you're like standing 3 feet away, you're 1 to 25 milligas. You don't want to be around these things long enough, like, because they can hurt you. But what's interesting, and this is something I can attest to, other people came with us on a number of occasions in those fields to look around while we were doing all the scans. And by the time I came out of there, I was suffering radiation sickness of some sort.
Wow.
Because my skin was on fire. You could go like that with me, right? You could just literally get your finger light as you could, right there. It would feel like someone cutting me with a rusty razor or something.
I was going to ask you if you experienced anything when you were doing that work.
Yeah, and I got sick. I had headaches. I couldn't see light for a while. It was very hard to focus. I felt like someone had kicked me in the stomach real hard. And, you get that horrible feeling afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Really uneasy feeling. I took very strong painkillers at the time because I had major problems. I didn't even put a dent in it.
Wow.
And literally,
Right, it's the safety levels that is acceptable under the building regulations for EMF, and I did include that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I mean, yeah. Where we go here?
There.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, those are the safety levels. They're above the safety levels. And what really amazes me is that some of the people who unfortunately have decided to turn against us know this happened because they were there for it. UFO group I used to be with, I won't mention their name. But what strikes me is even more, so the pain itself, after about 24 hours, 36 hours, it just went off like a switch. Like, wow. This is really horrible. Like, you're in you're agony at some point, and then it goes away. Like someone just It's kind of like when you're cold and you put something warm on, you'd see the cold go away. You're like, oh, that's better, isn't it? And it was like that. That's exactly.
So do you get anything? Because like if somebody gets exposed to high EMFs, well, I mean, I guess it depends on how long that exposure is and over time how much it is. But what you experienced, is that a normal reaction to that type of exposure, or was it unique? Do you say? Like,
I would say it was unique because I've never felt anything like that before, and I've worked near generators and things that give off a lot of EMF in factories for a long, long time. And it's not like it's not dangerous in like they're not. It's not like everybody's going to think radiation. They're going to think Chernobyl or something. It's not. But it is high enough to cause you long, ill effects if you're exposed to it long enough.
But you were saying that it's electrical and magnetic. So what it also, how can I word this? So electrical and magnetic, is that normal radiation?
Electromagnetic radiation is a normal thing. It just comes in various strengths and waveforms.
Right.
You can see them in the graphs that people put up. A radio wave is like be miles long. It's like a plus neutral negative wave like that. Waveform is how we measure these things, and how many waves per second is. If that makes any sense.
Since this wasn't a man-made object that you were interacting with, it was already in the ground. So what I'm kind of getting, maybe Janet can help with this a little bit, but I get a sense that it was messing with your energetic field and frequency because you're in a 3D human body that's not used to that type of foreign frequency or energy. Do you know what I'm trying to say, Janet? Like, does that make any sense?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. But I keep getting that all along that trail, okay, it absorbed it so deeply that once the ship was out of there, it was releasing it slowly into the air or slowly around anybody that would come into it. So I'd like to see what the long-lasting effects are, because I feel like later on in life, this might come back and show up as being almost like he had radiation.
Okay.
Everyone in the air that went into those fields to help with the testing were made physically sick.
Okay.
Yeah.
We only had one lady that seemed to be cured of her ailment, and she had the big C.
Yeah.
I
was worried about that. So yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Go on, Gary.
I was just going to say she had, should I say it? Cancer. And she would have terrible pains. And one day she came down to see Caz and walked through those fields, and she came out of there and she was all better.
Oh my goodness! So I misunderstood what you were saying. She was.
I'm not sure she got cured of it, but I know she definitely got a lot of boost from it.
It felt like $1 million, she said, energized.
Wow. Well, isn't that what they do to you when you have cancer? They radiate you. So, wow. Interesting.
And those are the two areas as well where the strange snow had happened, in Pentyrch field and at Snylock. So, the evidence mounts in our favor hugely.
So what do you get what that snow was? Do you have any idea, Gary or Caz, what it was? Have you experienced that at other UFO sites?
I think all snow is created through frequency. That's what gives snowflakes their different shapes.
Right.
So there was certainly a frequency disturbance in that area, or a portal in that area, to have created that snow, and along with the temperature drop would have explained it to a certain degree, but it wasn't real snow. It wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before. I held a piece between my finger and thumb and squeezed it. I released it, and it was just left on my thumb, and I watched it. It didn't melt. it dissolved into nothing. It rolled off my clothes. It didn't stick to you.
And this was at the crash site, correct?
And at what we call the near landing site, which is where the pyramid came in.
So both sites.
Yes, and where we had the spike, or I should say the drop.
The drop in the
temperature.
There is something called a phenomenon called Sorry, get my words wrong here. It's something called angel hair. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it's been documented a few times that when some strange craft have been seen over a village or over a town, there's like this white, sort of like silky substance that has been found falling to the ground. It doesn't last very long. It may last an hour, it may last a few minutes, but it has been analyzed and it's been shown to have some, I can't remember the exact properties of it, but it's definitely something synthetic and not man-made. Maybe that's something that, but I mean, with the snow itself, yeah, I can only assume at this point, based on what we've learned, is that, you know, it is something to do with maybe frequency and, you know, the energy that it draws heat, thermal heat from the area, which causes the area above it to go a lot colder as well, which is why it snowed probably. Was it a clear night?
Yeah, it was a very clear night. You said the full moon, right?
Yeah, it just stepped over the full moon, so it was creating a certain amount of light. I mean, you could certainly see the outline of the aircraft.
So what about you, Janet? Do you get anything about that?
I got divinity. I keep getting divinity. Okay. It's driving me crazy too, because I keep going, like, it keeps going back around to this was of the divinity light. And so it's, it left pieces, okay, of that divinity itself. And it's in Caz, okay? It's in Caz big time, and it's in a couple of the other people that witnessed this. But they haven't been able to come to terms with it. It feels like they're in denial, but it also feels like there's something big that's going to come out, and it's going to be like, it's going to blow up the news. And it's going to be talked about because there's some sort of miracles or something that are going to start to happen in and around that area. And it's because of, it's because of that divine light that was shone, the green light, and it's also because that ship was there and that ship needed to be there. And it's like, I'm telling you, the king is going to have to come out and speak about it in his, old British way, ha ha ha, kind of thing. Well, he reminds me of somebody who talks with marbles in his mouth.
Yeah, we didn't mention
to be offensive, but I just, I can't clearly understand him sometimes. And it's like he's trying to talk about this and he's going to say things like, it has come to my attention. And it's time for us to talk about this and let the world know. But there's no need to panic. We have it all under control.
Well, certainly the king, who was then Prince Charles, and David Cameron, who was the then Prime Minister, and Prince William were all here and all at RAF St. Athan by 7:30 on the 26th of February 2016.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gary can tell you more about that.
Okay, this gets even more intriguing.
Yeah, this is another part of another piece of the puzzle that we've uncovered. The Royal Chartered plane is something called Kitty Hawk. Its tail number is ZE700. Interestingly enough, it's out of service now, but have a guess where its final resting place is? At South Wales RAF St. Athan Museum. That's where they put it. But this plane doesn't fly anybody. It flies only the real upper echelons of our government and, royal household. So only people on it would be like the Queen, the King, or the princes of this country, or the cabinet ministers, or like the generals or admirals of the Navy and the Air Force and armies and all that. And this plane hardly, if ever, come here. It would. I mean, I've only ever noted it twice, and one of them was on the day of Pentyrch. It landed at 7:30ish on the day in question, and David Cameron, who was then Prime Minister, he was a Tory, conservative man, right? This is a Labour area, Wales. This is a Labour country, Labour Party country, right? So it begs the question, why is a man who is a Tory coming to an where did he go? He went to that airport.
He went to GE Aviation.
That's it, yeah.
And I've spoken to a member of staff there who told me that it wasn't an organized visit. It wasn't an announced visit. He turned up. There was no walk around or announcement. He went and spoke to management, and then he left again and went to RAF St. Athan. So he didn't come in on the plane. He drove in his 4x4s with his entourage, and all of their entourages were at RAF St. Athan by 7:30 that night.
Yeah. And that plane that landed, I've been able to track it through its ICAO code. Now, it's a bit technical, this. I'll try and make it brief. An ICAO code is like something that gets inputted into a plane system. It's like an area code for a phone, if you imagine that. Every area has an area code. These are the pretty much similar thing. I tracked it going all the way to America that very same day. Then after the following day, it came back to the UK. And what's interesting is that something that we found out later on is that whatever was taken from Smilog Woods, would you believe it, was taken to Patterson Air Force Base in America that same day.
Wow.
Son of a gun, eh?
And the website that gave me that information, apparently, not apparently, the website that gave me that information, would you believe it, those two web pages got scrubbed. But I still have the backups.
Yeah, I believe it. That just means you're on the right path, right? You got the truth, and they got to hide it. Go ahead, Janet.
Doesn't Prince William also fly helicopters?
Yeah. He's trained in it, yeah.
He's trained in it, and doesn't he have his own private helicopter?
I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't.
Okay, because
he has his private helicopter, yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like he goes all over the place without making anybody aware, except for government personnels, right?
Mm.
And it's like he goes kind of undercover with some of these people that are doing some of this investigating stuff. And he's gaining a lot of proof and stuff. Because I feel like there's proof that's taken and hidden away.
That Patterson Air Force Base is like so much going on around there. So that's so interesting. Maybe the person you need to contact is President Trump.
Oh, that idiot.
No comments, Janet.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not sure we can trust any of them.
No,
well, he's the one. If it landed in the U.S., then
we have a claim to it, but we can't.
What's that?
I was thinking there could be a claim to make there, for British interests. But I mean, if anybody's an American citizen, you can subject a freedom of information request. Maybe it would be a good idea if you would say, did anything come from the UK to Patterson Air Force Base, and can you tell us where it is? However they can frame the question, that would be something for the American viewers to do.
One of our friends is American. We could ask her if she could do it.
We can't
American friends. But I mean, isn't he supposed to be releasing all this information on UFOs? In 2016, he was elected president.
Yes, they're supposed to be doing all forms of disclosure. Whether the UFO will come out fully, I don't know. But they've already admitted a lot of stuff, that they do have non-human intelligences. That's like saying we've got an alien body. We've talked to the non-human intelligence, which means ET is in contact. And what they call what's the word? Exotic technologies or whatever words they use. Why don't you just say you got an alien craft?
Yeah, exactly.
These little words of theirs, but they've just admitted they got all that stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone somewhere, maybe soon, maybe a couple of American people can submit some freedom of information or do some information digging for us, because as British citizens, we can't submit the freedom of information request to American people. See, only American citizens can do it. So maybe that would be a good way to rush this thing up a little bit for us.
So, for you, Caz, your journey, like this whole story, just didn't end with everything you witnessed and saw. Everything that's happened over the last decade, you've had an incredible journey. Do you want to share some of? I can pull up the slide deck if you want with the freedom of information, or if you would just want to talk about it. How do you want to proceed?
It has been an incredible journey. When we had the men and women that turned up in the fields behind my house that were searching the land where the pyramid emerged on their hands and knees wearing forensic suits, they lied about their identity. First of all, they said they were a fracking survey team, and then they said they were Vodafone, which is a mobile phone network, doing field research. And that kind of tweaked my curiosity because they'd given different stories. Some of them were dressed in military attire and they were carrying guns. Only those guns did not have yellow caps in the end, implying they were carrying blanks. The magazines were black, again, which would suggest that they were carrying live rounds. And I knew that this couldn't possibly be correct. I wanted to find out with Gary exactly who these people were. So firstly, I asked Gary to write to Cardiff City Council to find out if there'd been any planning permission for said campsite, which is here. And if it weren't for these few photographs, there'd be absolutely no evidence those people were ever there. And I've said before, you can take the man out of the army, but you can't take the army out of the man. If this was you or I going off on a camping trip and having to get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, we'd be tripping over each other's drawstrings. But you couldn't get your foot between these tents. They are inch perfect. Every line was in perfect lines, shall we say. They were using some very strange equipment in the fields. And if anybody would walk past, they would all stop what they were doing and stand up and stare at you like some weird cult 60s movie. It was spooky, and they just stare at you until you're out of sight.
That's
and then they signal what they were doing.
So this was right in this picture that we're looking at right now. There's some small green tents and blue tents. Yeah. And then there's this great big white tent in the middle with something behind it.
And then beyond that was the commanding officer's tent. And then beyond that, there was another green canvas tent that was toggled up. You couldn't actually see what was inside of it.
So these were right outside your backyard?
Yes, you couldn't see them from my home because of the thicket of trees that were in front. So they were camped behind that thicket of trees. The trees that the green object, the first green object that came out of the pyramid, rocked above. This is where
they were.
Yeah.
And they were actually physically looking for something.
Yes. Donna had gone out and taken some photographs and also managed to be able to skirt around them and come through in what was the disused quarry and get below them on the road. As you can see in one of the images, there is the Land Rover at the end of the trail there. Right. That's right at the end of the trail. And beyond that then is the disused quarry that was. And she was able to get round and underneath them to listen to what they were saying. And they were clearly looking for something. Hurry up, find it. They were desperate to find something. The people in the forensic suits did not communicate with the plainclothes or the people that were carrying guns. they were very separate, but together, the same unit, but with their own jobs to do, if you like. And they desperately tried to behave like civilians.
And how long were they camped out there for?
For the best part of a week.
A whole week?
Yes.
And did you see any evidence, or anyone see any evidence of them removing anything from there?
Donna witnessed the people in forensic suits taking something away in a bag, and she wasn't able to get a photograph of them because she was kind of hiding, and every time she popped up, they were turning around and looking to make sure there was nobody in their sight. So they were acting very suspiciously, like they didn't want to be filmed, they didn't want to be seen. So they're always looking about themselves.
So I wonder what it is that they found. Any ideas?
Shard. They're
Well,
shard.
Pardon?
I'm not
Shard.
sure. It could be. I'm of the impression that anything that traverses through space will drag things with it.
Yeah.
Like space rocks, etc.
Mhm.
Shards. And because this came through into this dimension and not down from space, that it may have dragged something with it equally through that dimension. That they were on their hands and knees searching. So they
Yeah,
were,
because like this shards about this size, okay, that they were scooping up.
And what did they want with those shards, Janet?
They want to examine them, see what exactly they are and why, because one of them was some of the green. There was one that they found that still had a little bit of the glowing green on it, and they want to examine it.
But how did they even know they were there?
I don't know if they did know they were there. I think they searched to see if there was anything there.
Yeah.
So they must have experienced when something comes through a dimension like that it brings something in with it, and that they. So Gary, in your research, have you ever seen them do something similar to this or heard of this before?
Oh yeah, lots of times. They've always sent their research and crash retrieval teams to go and find what they can get. I mean, the bigger cases like, take Roswell, for instance. I mean, they had people scouring the area looking for anything they could find, but they didn't have to look very far. There was a huge debris field there. There is another case I'm aware of where they've done something like this, but this was more of a police investigation. It's called the Trans El Province case. I think it happened in 1980 in I can't remember the name of the village, but story goes, a car-sized, oval-shaped craft landed outside of a country farmhouse. The person who was in charge of maintaining the upkeep for it said he saw it land on the ground behind the garden area. And this is where I got all that stuff about EMF and plants being affected. But what happened is they sent their teams in, fingertip searched the whole area, and scoured around for all kinds of bits and pieces of information and evidence and whatever else they could find. There's also another case, I got a book on it somewhere. It was from a 1980 again, I believe, in a place called Llanilla, which is up near west, sort of upper west. If you take Wales and you got the mid part, Aberystwyth, Llanilla Way is just sort of above it, I think. And the researcher on that one, Gary Rowe, his name is. There is a documentary on it, actually. It's called the European Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it's called.
Never heard of it, but okay.
Well, I can't remember the name of the book. I know I've got it up there. But they were scouring the area because there'd been reports of a large explosion of some kind that had left debris over a farm area. The person who owned the land said you might want to get down here and take a look. But by the time he got there, he said that a team had been in and basically fingertip searched and picked up everything they could find in a hurry. And then they dug up the first inch layer of soil and tipped it over, turned it over. And this is not the first time strange stuff like this has happened. Amazingly.
But in that area where they were searching, that's not where it crashed, right?
Which one are we talking about now?
In Pentyrch, like where they were searching, where they had the encampment, that's not where it crashed, right?
Like Caz said, there was probably some bits that may have fallen off of the actual craft or something that got dragged through with it. They must have known about that, otherwise they wouldn't have bothered with a fingertip search.
Wow.
Exactly.
I just
Like
wanted.
I said, it was like both sides knew what to expect. This isn't the first time this has happened.
Yeah.
It's happened before.
Yeah. So they
Won't be
knew.
the last.
I know, sadly.
Yeah. So, Kaz, where would you like to go from here?
Okay, well, I don't want to go through all of the documents because there's far too many and we're running rather late.
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to go to is the identification. I think it's slide 73. It's probably in the second file. And it's from a document called Training Over Private Land, section 26B. And it's regarding identification because these people lied about their identity. And I knew that couldn't possibly be right. And one of the reasons why I love the Ministry of Defence is because they have standing orders and they don't break them for anyone. So I went straight to the section to find out what their rules and regulations said regarding identification. And this is what it says. All members of the services must disclose their identity and that of their unit if asked to do so by landowners and officials of National Parks or Forestry Commission. It may not always be possible for landowners and officials to be readily recognised, but any persons questioning service personnel on private land must be assumed to have a valid reason for doing so. Therefore, the utmost courtesy must be extended to them. Parties of service personnel and individuals are not to avoid any person attempting to question them. But they did, and they lied, and they actually ignored, that's the Training Over Private Land document by the Defence Infrastructure Organisation, the people in charge of the Ministry of Defence who write the rules and regulations. That's the cover to that document. And I think the very next slide will be the identification that I've just read out.
Okay.
But I also wanted to know, that's what I've just read out. Yes, keep it on that one a second. What else they're supposed to do? No, that one's fine. You can go back to that one that you were just on. What else they were supposed to do for a military exercise of that magnitude. And under the Training Over Private Land Act, section 15, there must be what they call a ministerial briefing. Ministers must be briefed in advance about large-scale military exercises involving extensive areas of the UK, including training over private land. And the submission must include the period of the exercise, including weekend activities, times of the exercise, including any nighttime activities or driving over bank holidays, the number of troops, vehicles and helicopters, outside vehicles, for example, armoured vehicles and self-propelled guns. It goes on. Any intensive out of hours or helicopters or fast jets activity, any foreign forces involved, the Americans were involved, details of any open days or media briefings, how an exercise might affect the general public, and a draft letter for the minister to send to members of Parliament and members of devolved legislators whose constituents are likely to be affected by the exercise activity. They didn't do any of it. There was no letter to the minister. There certainly wasn't a press briefing because Wells Online was still working on a story on it at 3:39 in the morning. The NOTAM that was posted on the night, and all NOTAMs, that's notice to airmen, must be planned and submitted a minimum of 5 days before they go live. Yet the Civil Aviation Authority knew nothing about it. They have no information. It was never a planned NOTAM. I don't want to get into all the documents because, as I say, we are running rather late. The Welsh government didn't know anything. We wrote to them. We wrote to local government because perhaps they should have been involved. They should have had a letter. They should have given permission for their land to be used. And we wrote to them. I'm researching about the incident on the nights of the 25th and 26th of February. 2016, which involved the supposed military exercise which took place in the area around Llantrisant Common to Pentyrch, an area in which the Royal Glamorgan Hospital and the Royal Mint are located. We asked, did the council have prior warning that the exercise was taking place, and if so, how much notification was given? And they wrote back and said that the authority was not made aware of any exercises in that area on these dates and is not aware of any council property being damaged. So they weren't told either. I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as possible. The fire service weren't told anything. The hospital told us that they didn't know anything, that no emergency measure services or procedures were undertaken, as no information was passed to the Royal Glamorgan Hospital about this. And then later they tried to change their story, which we undid quite easily because we knew the truth. And then they tried to cover it with yet another cover story of a police counter-terrorism exercise. But I think I would just want to skip to the end, really. The Royal Mint said that they received prior notification, but then couldn't produce any evidence of any prior notification. We actually had South Wales Police facing criminal charges of contempt for failing to answer us. And we eventually forced them to answer us, and there were no counter-terrorism exercises either. We actually went to the Information Commissioner's office and held them in contempt. But I just want to get to the point. I think one of the most important things that they broke that night, one of the laws they broke from the Ministry of Defence, was the Ministry of Defence's own avoidance policy. And this is so serious that it involves royal households. So the avoidance policy states that there are no uninhabited areas of the UK large enough to meet our essential training needs. In principle, the whole of the UK is available for low-flying military aircraft to provide sufficient training airspace whilst reducing the potential for disturbance as far as possible. In practice, military low-flying is not conducted in certain areas. In particular, our aircraft do not conduct low-flying within the controlled airspace of civil airports, Cardiff International Airport's just up the road, and also to avoid the overflying of centres of population of more than 10,000 inhabitants. Llantrisant has more than 13,000 inhabitants. And in addition, there are restrictions placed on the overflight of specific industrial. Well, the Royal Mint was right there and sits on an industrial estate. Medical, the hospital was right there, but they chose to ignore it, and God forbid anybody was having neurosurgery that night. And other key establishments. And those key establishments are royal households, which will indeed include the Royal Mint, that they chose to ignore that night and put everybody's lives at risk with no thought for anyone other than the exotic material that they were after.
Wow. It's so incredible. I mean, how many Freedom of Information requests have you submitted from the beginning?
Gary?
Over 100.
Yes.
Over 100.
Yes. And an investigation that took 8 years to complete. There are certain things that the Ministry of Defence have to do. You can find all of this information on presentations that Gary have done and I have done. I'm trying to cut the time down because there is so much. But I asked the Ministry of Defence, what person, organisation or public body did you receive written permission from to conduct this exercise over private land? And the Ministry of Defence told me that they do not hold the information because they never got written permission from anyone. What information was given to the local community or local government for such a loud and disturbing exercise over a congested area? And again, the MOD told us they don't hold that information because no information was given out. Were any restrictions placed upon you by the landowner, organisation or public body prior to this exercise? And again, the MOD does not hold the information. What written permission did you receive to land your helicopters in silent hours in a congested area? And again, the MOD has no information. And can you supply a copy of the detailed recce, including a photocopy of the map and routes? And yet again, the MOD have no paperwork, nothing. For a multi-billion-pound operation, they've got absolutely nothing. So I know that Gary
And
wants
how
to-
many in total, how many aircraft were involved between the helicopters and the airplanes?
Well, there were 2 E-3 Sentries that we've been able to trace, including the one from NATO. There were 20 military helicopter gunships.
That's crazy.
There were 2 C-17s, 2 C-130s.
For such a tiny area.
Yeah, and most of the noise was over Llantrisant and then throughout the whole of South Wales. I don't know. There is an image of the NOTAM, which is important because I think
I can find that while you're talking.
Yeah, it's got the 2 circles on it, the big red circle and the smaller yellow circle, and there are lots of pins in the map.
Okay, I'll keep looking while you're chatting there.
Okay, well, to explain a little bit about this NOTAM, a notice to airmen, sorry, is a notice to other air users that there is an exclusion zone being used by the military, and these, as I say, have to be planned and submitted a minimum of 5 days before they go live.
Okay.
And it creates a bubble in the sky, and the military are not allowed to fly within 3 nautical miles of its boundary, whether that be the boundary laterally or vertically, or that's the one. And so the NOTAM that was posted is there on the left-hand side. And to make it easier to understand, the map on the right, the yellow circle was the excluded area, which includes Pentyrch and Llantrisant. The red area is where they flew that night, 50 miles outside of the alleged NOTAM. And the yellow pins are just some of the hundreds of people that called the police that night because of the helicopters hovering low over their homes.
Wow.
Right throughout, they chased those objects, herded them up, and chased them all the way out to sea. That's what they did. And that's totally illegal, what they did.
That's insane.
That is crazy.
Okay, we wrote to about the planes that were here in the preceding days. And there was no NOTAM ever listed for those aircraft. So we asked the Ministry of Defence again, because they took 3 years to answer us. 3 years on a freedom of information. They should have answered in 20 days.
That is unbelievable.
And eventually, we get an answer, and the information was withheld under Section 26, which is not in the public interest. National Air Traffic Services had no information about the NOTAM. The Ministry of Defence told us that they should be planned and submitted 5 days before they go live to the Civil Aviation Authority. We asked the Civil Aviation Authority, and they knew nothing about this NOTAM. And we've got all the receipts, all the documents for this. But I think I want to skip to the very end, where Gary wrote to the Air Command Secretariat and asked them, excuse me. It says, "Dear Mr. Jones, thank you for your email dated 3rd of February, 2023. Bearing in mind, it's taken us 8 years to get this now. Wow. 8 years to bring this to a satisfactory conclusion." And he wrote, "I wish to make a freedom of information request. Please, could you please confirm if there's any information that is held within the Ministry of Defence, the Defence Infrastructure Organisation, or any office that would hold information pertaining to any day or night military exercises, day or night low flying exercises for the area of South Wales for the time of February of 2016. And they wrote back and said, "I am treating your correspondence as a request for information under the Freedom of Information Act 2000. A search for the information has now been completed within the Ministry of Defence, and I can confirm that no information in the scope of your request is held. There were no programmed air defence exercises in South Wales in February of 2016. So why were they here? And how did I know on the morning of the 26th of February that it was not an exercise?
So that is just, so what about the community that you live in? Like, what about, are people not up in arms? Are they not asking, nobody seems to care? Or is it just you guys that care? Like, what's happening in that regard?
Well, it's an issue that's passed. I think people were more accepting because I said the military were in at community level from the off. I gave you two examples of the smoking man and Agent Fox Mulder. Well, there were people making one-line comments in local community hubs. And you've got to be a member of the community to make a comment on those hubs. And it was a simple one-liner. It was a military exercise. No follow-up, no conversation, no nothing. And it was the same people over and over again throughout all of the local hubs. And people are more accepting of what they're told rather than to question, well, was it really? I knew it wasn't because I saw it.
Well, because you saw it, you witnessed the whole thing.
Right. So they couldn't lie to me. And that's why it was easy for us to do this investigation, because I saw it.
So where do you see, what are next steps for you? Where do you see this going forward? Do you feel like you're stuck? Do you feel like there's someone who's going to come forward and help you? Like, what's happening in that regard? Because it's been almost 10 years.
Right. Well, we do have some photographs of some of the objects that came out of the pyramid that night. And you do have those. I've sent them over. Yes, of course, we would like more witnesses to come forward. I have contacted some of the leading forensic investigative reporters anywhere in the world to get involved, to find us a military whistleblower, because that's what this needs to blow the lid off this case. I know there are witnesses out there that have filmed it, that have the film. Please bring it forward. Email me, anonymously or otherwise. This is one of the biggest cases in the world, if not the biggest case in the world. And we as a race should be told. And if our governments are not going to tell us, then we need to tell each other.
Right.
We are disclosure.
Yes.
And this case is one of the few documented cases that can be proven. It's not about me saying it or the other witnesses saying it. We have the paperwork to prove it.
And it's probably that there's so much more to hide with this one that they just don't want to let it come out. And what happened to you and your family after all of this? I mean, I know you had to put up with people not believing you and stuff like that, but were you getting any threats? Was anything happening in that regard? Or Gary, when you became involved, did that?
Yes, I did receive some threats. I was, and the person that came out was definitely military, just in his fitness alone. But more importantly, when I was trying to describe what happened, he wasn't trying to visualize, he was remembering. Whoever this person was part of what happened that night. Asked me what I wanted, which I thought was a strange question to ask.
Did he come to your house, or?
I used to have a Facebook page. I don't anymore.
Right.
And he contacted me via Facebook to say that he had an interest in the case.
Okay.
And fortunately, I didn't meet him on my own. The threats were made that, accidents happen all the time. Perhaps I'd have a fatal car accident. And that threat was extended to my family. Now, threatened me and okay, I probably would have stayed silent. But to extend that threat to my children, I had a choice. And you either stand up and fight or you lay down and die.
Mhm.
And as afraid as I was, and I think every soldier in every war has been afraid at some point, but you go forward because it's the right thing to do. And that's what I chose, to go forward and to take it on.
Well, good for you. It takes a lot of courage to do that. And again, I keep using that word tenacity to just keep going through and not, keep hammering through those freedom of information requests. But on the same hand, it's like, well, why do they give us access like that? Or you can get information, but we're actually not going to give you the information. So
we had to be very clever with our questioning. I mean, Gary wanted to go in for the kill, but typical man. But I wanted to shut off all the gates first to make sure that they had no way out. I cornered the military defense and they had nowhere left to go. They lied multiple times.
But I'm telling you, it's going to explode. It's going to come out and it's going to be all over the place, all over the darn place.
Vindicated. I just keep you are going to get vindicated.
Yeah.
And Gary, what about for you? Have you been experiencing any threats, or where do you see yourself in this going forward? You're still obviously supporting Caz through this.
Yeah. Well, I know Ross Coulthard has expressed an interest in it. I'd love to see him, with his connections and his ability to speak to people in the higher ups of military and governments.
And who's that? Sorry?
Ross Coulthard is an independent journalist, Australian, I believe, but he's very, he's very well spoken kind of guy. Like, you know what I mean? He has a very, he's a very formal speaking kind of guy.
He was the guy that found David Grush and the psionics team with Jake Barber and Fred Baker.
Okay.
Yeah. I would like for him to be involved in it now, because I think that's where it needs to go. I mean, we're still going to keep looking for witnesses and I'm still going to keep looking for evidence, but I think we've realized now it needs something more above us to get it there. And I think, hopefully one day that'll happen. Ross will get involved, and it's already had an episode of Y-Files as well, which is a big.
Yes, that's how I even found out about it. Actually, I was watching the wild and I was like, "What?" Oh,
I'm so grateful to AJ, honestly, just for covering it. He's a really good debunker.
Mm-hmm.
I've asked every debunker in the world to get involved,
and he couldn't do it.
It was real, and I'm even, albeit not entirely accurately, he depicted it, but he did a good job, and because there's an awful lot to get through.
Yes.
There's, if Gary and I were to do a presentation on all of the evidence, then it would probably take us all day. That's how much we have.
Yes.
And so we try and do it as concisely as possible without going through all the rules and regulations and things that they did that they shouldn't have done, But the photographs are good from the Colwyn.
What an incredible story. And again, I so appreciate your time and willingness to be here with us today. I think that I'm going to ask the two, if you wouldn't mind just staying on after we say goodbye here. But Janet, did you have anything else that you wanted to add? Any other questions?
I just want to say that, kudos to you guys for coming and telling the story and making people more aware. And the more we open our mouths and share the story, it'll be in their face. They'll have no choice but to, talk about it. So I just feel like it's going to be coming out, and hang on to your underwear because it's going to be a heck of a ride.
I hope so.
Yes.
I really do.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a very informative and amazing show. And I wanted to thank Bill, who was in the previous one, and Janet for also joining and being part of it. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us, and have yourself a fabulous rest of your day, night, week in health, harmony, and happiness. And goodbye for now. So.